Okay, hello and welcome back for another video. This is a completely different style of video for me, so I hope that you like it and bear with as I'm getting to learn the setup, etc. But it's definitely something that I've really enjoyed being hosted on other similar types of videos, and I'll link some of the ones that I've done down in the description. The guy that I've got on today, I'm really excited to talk to, and he also has a very successful or growing YouTube channel. I think over 750 subs now. Seasonaire, has worked in Europe, is currently over in Canada. So, without further ado, let's bring him in for today. And Matt, welcome.
Morning, Simon.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. So it's morning there, late afternoon here. Are you setting up for a day on snow?
That's the plan. It's just gone 8 o'clock in the morning here. I've got my Yorkshire tea in hand, and yeah, it's the weekend. It's looking a little bit snowy outside, which is what we want because we've had a little bit of wet and warm weather over the week, which sort of has put a little bit of a downer on last weekend's great start to the season. So I'm hoping throughout the weekend the conditions improve by the hour. So yeah, I will be heading up a little bit later. But yeah, the skis might need a little bit of a wax this morning though, because there was definitely a few scrapes from last weekend.
Well, it sounds like there is potential for a good day ahead. If it's anything like that video that you put out from your opening day and the conditions that you're bound to get this season, I am proper pumped for you and go get it. In terms of your channel, let's just tell some of the people who might not have heard of your channel before a little bit about it. It's Bramskivlogs. What do you do?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is about documenting my experiences working and traveling in the mountains. Skiing is my ultimate passion. I love being in that environment in resorts. I'm trying to sort of build a full-time life in the mountains, and that's taken me on this journey that has allowed me to work in places such as France, Austria, and Japan. And like many of us, we were all sort of saddled back home during the pandemic, but was pretty eager still to find ways to get back out. And Canada became the clearest option during last summer. And yeah, after about 10 weeks of trying to get the permit, I ended up here in Revelstoke in British Columbia. So going to be documenting more of my journey here. The beauty is that I can be here on this visa for 2 years. So it's a bit of longevity and allows me to sort of try and plan a bit more ahead. But, I'm doing about 2 videos a week now of all the experiences and yeah, loving it.
Well done for surviving the visa process. I mean, I've done it myself, man. Like, I knew you're in Canada, so I've put on the Sun Peaks hat today, also British Columbia. And I love my time working out there. Did a season Sun Peaks and a season out at Marmot Basin over in Alberta. But getting that working holiday visa, it's not easy.
No, it's not. I mean, I don't know if you found it this, but the lack of, you don't actually hear anything from immigration for weeks, and it drives you crazy.
Yeah, definitely. Like you're sat there looking at your emails, refreshing like at least every day. Especially with the it's not the draft where they refresh the amount that are available. What's that called?
The pool.
That's it. The pool. Yeah, the pool was. I was on my email all the time, and you can't. It's hard to concentrate on anything else, to be honest, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel for a lot of people who, because I've had a lot of people messaging me as I got here, and people, it's a different process for everybody, really. And it can be a lot of things depending on what country you're applying from, what your situation is, what's your, I don't know, what you've got on your history and whatever. 10 weeks was about average, so I'm quite lucky. But I know some people have been waiting for months, and I think the pool has now closed now. So yeah, but I know that here in Canada they're still looking for lots of workers. So yeah, the pandemic has also had its effects out here for the hospitality and service. So yeah, companies are still looking for workers.
It's tough as well because I think last time I checked, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's only 5,000 working holiday visas from people for the UK. But like Ireland, for example, and I'm not having a go at Ireland, but it is a smaller catchment than the UK, and they get 14,000 working holiday visas for Canada. So I think to get one of those golden tickets, as it were, it's brilliant, man. And I'm pumped for you that you get that experience this year.
Thanks, mate. Where are you now? Are you you're off on your travels, aren't you?
Not yet. So 2 weeks, and I mean, I was gonna bring it up. Like, I'm just happy. The thing that makes me the most happy for you and anybody else who's already out there is the uncertainty's over. Whatever happens, you're in the resort, and at least you'll be able to walk out your back door and do some ski touring or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas my plan is I've got some time coming up where I'm meant to be going on a road trip through Switzerland. Now, following everything the last couple of weeks has just been insane. So obviously, I like touch wood. Yesterday, Switzerland announced no quarantine, but in the time that they announced that, I had booked a whole backup trip. So I was like, right, well, instead of going to Switzerland, I'll go to France. And then, so I booked a load of free cancellation accommodation, and I bought lift passes, like season passes for the Grand Massive, because first of all, like that's an area that I love, but also they're fully refundable. So I was like, okay, how can I be like the most well spread out? And then I even booked a ferry from Portsmouth across to Spain, because I was like, well, that's fully refundable. But if France and Switzerland close down, I'll go to Spain and go to Bakira Beret, because I've never been there before. So, but touch wood, at the moment, at the time of recording this, on the 17th, should be able to head out to Switzerland in time for Christmas. But I mean, the other problem that I've got at the moment is this bad boy.
Oh, so, mate. Yes, you did tell me about this.
Yeah, so I've got a full brace on my right knee at the moment. Medial knee ligament has a slight tear, and the doctors have told me that basically if I do nothing, which is what I've been doing, I should be good in 4 to 5 weeks after the injury, because it's not a bad one. It doesn't need surgery. So I'm just, keeping my fingers crossed that I can strap and ride this winter.
Oh,
we'll see.
Well, yeah, well, I hope you can, mate. I hope that heals up, because injuries can be a nightmare. But just on everything with Switzerland and Europe. I mean, I think throughout the pandemic, I've sort of, I don't know about you, but I've tried not to sort of be looking at the news every single day. But then at the same time, it's hard not to want to wake up and you kind of wish, okay, I want to be able to know now that I can get up and I can go to the Alps. I can go to, fly to this place and go on a holiday, or go back doing what you love. And, first it was Austria, who have sort of gone into like a temporary lockdown, which I think it seems to be having the desired effect. And I think obviously touch wood, you'd like to hope that they'll relinquish that just before Christmas so that all the first guests can come in. But then Switzerland, I was really surprised about, because last weekend was a total mess with what they were doing. But last year they were pretty defiant. They sort of said, no, we're not going to do what France and Italy are wanting us to do, which is they wanted the entire European ski scene to collectively close down. And Switzerland and Austria, to an extent, both turned around and said, no, we're going to stay open. We think that obviously skiing and being in the mountains is beneficial for public health, for physical activity, mental health. Obviously, it has huge implications on jobs and the local economy. And I think it actually showed, after sort of a week or two of quite high cases in early Christmas time, after that it was the right decision. And I think so for why Switzerland have done what they've done the last week was a bit surprising. But I'm glad to hear you can get out there when you can now.
Well, that was the thought process entirely. So I was like, so last winter, my work commitments kept me in the UK just past. It was like 2 or 3 days at the time when lockdown happened. Like if I'd left the country 2 or 3 days earlier, I'd have gone. And I'd planned this road trip using the Magic Pass. and I'd also bought a backup for France, and which was again the Grand Massive. And I was like, okay, well, this winter, if I hedge my bet, Switzerland is the one that's not going to close down, because they didn't close down last year. So the fact that they did was really surprising. And even more so, like the bedlam that it caused with people transferring from Geneva, which I'm sure, like your past life as a rep, you'll know like quite a lot about. People flying into Geneva to get to resorts in France across the border, and they were told, no, well, you're going to have to quarantine as well. And it's like, well, hold on, this puts everything to a standstill. Especially, like, I've got a really good friend who runs a ski school in the Port de Soleil, and he was like, well, this is our winter gone, because if people can't fly into Geneva, they're just going to cancel their holidays, which means for the second year in a row, we're not going to have lessons, because even if French people can get there or locals can ski there, he teaches the majority of his clients are English, tourists from the UK. But fingers crossed, we'll keep that positive note moving forward, and hopefully I'll be able to join you with some powder days very soon. Going back to you for a second and just Revy, how are you settling in? Do you feel major differences between Canadian ski town and European ski town, or what's going on?
Definitely. Yeah, I've settled in really well. And I think that's thanks partly down to my roommates. Revy is one of these towns which is notorious. If you leave it late for trying to find like ski accommodation, you're not going to find anything that's sort of affordable. So even before I actually had my visa confirmed, I was looking, and I managed to sort of find a couple with a spare room who were both local workers in the town. So I made a conscious effort not to sort of go living in a staff house this year. The more seasons you do, you tend to sort of appreciate the bit of peace and quiet and enjoying the sort of the nicer experiences. Whereas like, you do your first season and it's like, oh, you want to go out and party and drink every single night. And eat all the sort of the food and the takeaways, and that was me in the first year. But Revy it's a really nice sleepy town. Really, it's small in the grand scheme of things. It's only about 8,000 people, and that does get bigger during the winter season when you get sort of the skiers and the seasonal workers that do come in. I'm sort of slap bang in the middle of the town. I can walk to all the shops and the pubs. The actual ski hill is about a 20-minute drive away from the town. So it's not, that's different, I think, probably to most of the European resorts where it's, the town is right at the base of the ski mountain, and you can come off and go straight into the bars or go home to your, and jump in the pool or have whatever it is that you do for your après. So the town is slightly separate, but it's a beautiful setting. You're surrounded by mountains on all sides. Revelstoke is quite unique in the sense that it's in its own little valley. It has its own weather system. Revelstoke is up there with some of like the best snow in the world. You get something like, well, I don't actually know the figure, but it's an extortionate amount of snow. And it's a very popular destination for heli skiing and cat skiing. There's 4 different companies that operate out of Revy for heli skiing operations. And they're pretty much all fully booked up for the entire winter. So, everybody's just waiting for a bit more snow to arrive, and that's going to go on. But the atmosphere in town's great. There's a couple of good bars, great places to go eat. And there's just all sorts of activities to do, which I think, again, has really helped with settling in. And I've sort of made sure that I've either been like filming or doing things, getting familiar with the town. So joining the hiking club, you can go on hikes while the snow's not so deep yet. There's the ice hockey. Was the ice hockey game again last night? I think Revelstoke, we're now undefeated, like at home. And
what's the team there? What's the
Grizzlies?
The Revelstoke Grizzlies. I remember going to watch the Kamloops Blazers. I think Blazers quite a lot when I was at Sun Peak. So it's nice having hockey. stuff like that, which is away from, you go and do your day on snow, but then you've got other stuff. Like I remember in Jasper, like went curling a few times. I mean, that was just awesome.
Yeah, it's such a popular thing, and it's so unique, I think, to Canada's identity. But I think it's brilliant how, like, even a small town has its own like ice hockey club, and the whole town gets behind it. Yeah, I think we actually played Kamloops about 2 weeks ago. But it's such a good event, and you sort of, the club is run by communities, but you're in this small little stadium, and they have this unique way of, getting your beer tokens and collecting your beer. And then there's a section there, and everybody's trying to build all these like beer pyramids, and everybody's cheering. The national anthem gets sung at the start of every game. And these are just like, these are like, I mean, I think that the age group that there is just like early 20s. So they're sort of just in and out of college. But, you can see it's like a real history behind it, and everyone just loves coming to watch it.
And the standard's high as well, isn't it?
Yeah, really high. Every team that's come to Revelstoke tries to rough them up, and they like, each team has tried to be a little bit more physical. And obviously everybody loves it when there's like a big like slam up against the glass wall, and everyone goes, oh, like screaming. But Revelstoke seem to be better skilled actually with the puck. When I watch the game, I look at it like almost if you were trying to watch football, because that's the only connotation I can think of. And you look at the way they sort of try and pass and move around, and no, but it's great fun. Yeah, so there's lots to do in Revy for such a small town, and it's popular from a lot of people, not just Brits. There's more Aussies than there is probably Brits here. Canadians from all over Canada. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, let's get into it then. So today we are meant to be discussing, rather than going off piece and talking about what a cool experience you're having while I'm still stuck here in the UK, but not jealous at all, our top 5 ski accessories, or from my perspective, snowboard accessories. And these are the things that maybe they're not your main thing. It's not your skis, but it's the thing that you tend to have in your pocket every single time you go out, and maybe why we find them so important. And just on that note, I think first one from me, and I think we both had it, was a helmet. Now, while I'm on it, the last video, or second last video that I put out, was a helmet review, and there is a winner. Cameron, I've messaged you, mate. But if you don't message back, I don't know where to post it to. So get in touch and I'll get it out to you. But you also had helmet as really important. Why is a ski helmet important to you?
Safety. I think is a really good one that we bring this up first, for numerous reasons, really. I think when you're growing up, you look at this helmet, and your parents might be trying to make you wear it. You don't want to. You want to be cool. You want to have sort of your jacket done open. You want to be flapping and just skiing around with your mates. But ultimately, the helmet is not a thing there to make you look cool. It's to protect you. And there is a real, as great as skiing is as a sport, there is a real risk of injury. I have had guests and fellow friends get helicoptered off mountains. It is not something you want to see happen. I've seen concussions happen in the mountain. Having a helmet mitigates a lot of that risk. It doesn't obviously completely wipe it out. There's always a risk to everything. But by having a helmet, it just gives you that extra bit of protection that you would not have. And if you don't have a helmet, or I think adding to that, if you don't have a good helmet, something could happen. I mean, you only have to think of, in the last week or so, we still don't know the full details, but there's this shocking story coming out of what happened at the Snowdome in Tamworth, where sadly a young boy lost their life. And I think from what I've read so far, there's a campaign now to sort of make wearing helmets mandatory on tobogganing and stuff like that in UK snow centres. But but and that's really important. But if you're a little bit older like us, think back to Michael Schumacher, the famous Formula One driver. He was skiing in Meribel, I think it was, where he had his accident. He was off piste. He was wearing a helmet, I believe, but all the same, if he hadn't been wearing that helmet, he probably would have been dead.
Yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. And I think what we're seeing in skiing and snowboarding in general is that something that was once looked upon as not particularly cool, I'm not going to do that. I think the majority of people, at least in the resorts that I've been to recently, do tend to wear a helmet now. I know, like the Tamworth thing, I mean, it's shocking and thoughts with family, etc. But I used to work at Hemel, and I'm pretty sure that helmets were compulsory. And I know that from a lot of the ski schools that I've worked in, they won't let people take lessons now unless they're wearing a helmet, and they'll provide them as part of their skiing package. But I think the thing that really stood out to me when I was doing my instructor training at Marmot, I was shadowing another instructor. Beginner's lesson, the most mellow green terrain possible, and the guy who's instructing is just demonstrating a side slip on a snowboard, and he's caught his back edge, gone over from a standing position. He's not moving fast, and his helmet, when he's got up, it's cracked down the middle. And I was like, oh wow! So obviously we got ski patrol, etc. We got him off, and he had a concussion. But without that barrier there, that's then his skull. And at that point, I probably was one of those people who was like, oh, I don't really like wearing a helmet. Is it that comfortable? I'd prefer, to have a beanie on or whatever. And I think from that day forward, I was like, nah, never again. Like, it's just, it doesn't even have to be your fault. And I, don't want to come across as too preachy or anything. But I think for me and people that I ride with, it's become really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, I never go out without it. I actually bought a brand new helmet for the start of my season in Japan. And I had one. The beautiful thing is, I mean, a lot of ski equipment can be quite expensive. Helmets are not one of those things. So, when you're talking about buying something that's going to give you a bit of protection, it's not costing you a lot, but it's giving you like a huge lot more. So if anybody who has a helmet now and has had it for quite a few years, it's worth having a look at, giving it a once over. I'm one of those people that with my helmet, I like to put stickers on it and make it all look like that, have the GoPro mount on it. But after several years of this one that I had, I'd done 2 seasons with it on top of skiing throughout the years. And I looked at it and I thought, this is looking very flimsy and tacky. You think a bit about where you might be skiing or the conditions. And I think, it can't hurt to spend 60, 70 pounds on something that's going to last me another 8, 9, 10 years. Yeah. Definitely. And just save me from potentially getting badly concussed.
Well, I think it's similar. Maybe not everyone realizes, but ski helmets are pretty similar to motorcycle helmets in the way that once they've had a big impact and that shell is actually compressed, it's not going to help you in that same place anymore. So definitely if you are taking falls on a regular basis, or you've had a particularly bad one, it's definitely worth having a look at it. I don't think they make it anymore. At least I don't think I can find it, but I was riding with a helmet from Gyro, the Combine, and it had it was kind of like a memory foam on the inside. So when it compressed, it would come back out. And I loved that helmet. But when I've looked through their lineup now, because it was time to replace it, they don't do it anymore. But are there any features in particular that you look for in a helmet? What makes a good helmet for you?
Well, I mean, the one I just bought a year or so ago, I bought from Salomon. I really like them as a brand. The technology, this one has a notch on the back where you can sort of change the tightness and feel of it. So whereas like the initial ones, you'd be sort of playing with all the straps and everything, this done all that. So it's really easy and accessible. I can do it while I'm standing up. There is that protection here on underneath the chin as well. It's got a bit of the strap. I don't think there's much more, to be honest. It was just, you know, I wanted something that was new. It was ready. It wasn't, you know, my other one was falling apart. So there wasn't really anything in particular I was looking for.
Okay, so like I completely agree. Those things are like a game changer, right? Just for comfort and making helmets just feel that little bit more snug.
Mm.
But I reckon one thing that I keep an eye out for now is MIPS, which I don't know if you've seen it on the helmet. It actually, if you were to impact your head, my understanding is that the helmet will rotate slightly, which allows your brain inside your skull to move as well. So you're less likely to get concussion.
Wow.
Now, I know that like Smith, when I was working in Canada and in a ski shop, they were one of the first people to come in and demonstrate them to us. And I think if you can find MIPS on a helmet, it's definitely worth it. But to be honest, any helmet is better than no helmet. So kids, go out and buy yourself a helmet. So that's helmets. We both agreed on that one. What's your first accessory from a ski perspective?
Okay, so from a ski perspective, I'm going to say the ski tie, which is this little invention that, you know, I think can actually really help a lot. And a lot of people, a lot of skiers I see on the slope don't use them, or they don't know what they are, to be honest. But they can save you a lot of effort and make you a lot less tired when you're either heading to the lift or you're heading back to the car. So a ski tie is it's like a little piece of Velcro which you put when you sort of have your two skis clipped together. You can put the ski tie in between them, you Velcro it around, and then immediately you have your skis tied together, and that gives you a whole lot more ease when it comes to having to carry your skis, say from the house to the lift, from the car and backwards. Excuse me. I first discovered one of these actually when I was doing race training with Kandahar when I was a lot younger, and I've never stopped using one since. Um, you know, there's so many different ways that you can carry them, and I think if there's any parents that are watching this, it's definitely worth investing some for the kids, because the kids don't want to carry skis. It's always a funny thing, you know. You see them and they're all trying to carry them, and the skis are all over the place, and they all end up like just falling in a heap. And your mum ends up carrying some, your dad does, and everything like that. But parents, if you buy these and then you clip them on the skis at the end of the day, they're just a simple, quick tool to carry your skis better, and they only cost like £2.
I think it's the little things in life, and the easiest inventions that make the biggest difference. So, I mean, from an instructing point of view, you would always see kids walking across the like the learner's slope with their skis all over the place. The ski instructors running after them, and it was one of the things that made me feel happy to teach snowboarding, because you didn't have skis going off in every direction. So, just a couple of quid and makes your life easier. Pretty good start, I think. For me, my first one from a snowboard perspective is snowboard tool. Now, I will, maybe this is too strong a statement, but like snowboard tool, just basically little screwdriver, carry it in your pocket. This one here from Burton, I think cost me about £10, and I've had it in my pocket for probably about 10 years. I've opened it this winter, and I've actually just ordered another one because I'd lost the actual screw. But besides from that, the only days that I can think are I've had a really crap day today, it's when I've forgotten my snowboard tool. And it's for things like, I remember I was in Verbier and I'd got to one of the highest lifts there, and I looked down and my strap was coming loose on my binding. And I was like, I just looked in my pocket. I was like, don't have it with me. I'll just ride down to the bottom of this run. About halfway down the run, when I was trying to get to the lift, because normally you have like the screwdrivers and stuff at each lift station, I realized that my ankle strap had just come off. And so there I am trying to ride down this run, no ankle strap to keep my foot on the board. And it just really didn't make my life fun that day. The other way that it's affected me as well, not having one with me, is you're out, you're on a powder day, something like that is going to happen. And rather than just being able to adjust it then and there, you have to take time out of your day to go and find a screwdriver, go back inside, go to a lift station, whatever. So for me, snowboard tool and being able to adjust your bindings or your stance or whatever it is on the go is super important. Like, have you ever had like a ski malfunction, something, or heard of one? Like, does it happen in skiing, or is this a snowboarder's problem?
No, it does. I mean, the thing where I would say it applies to with skis is most likely with the DIN settings. So you know, the DIN settings. There's sort of really a correlation between maybe with your sort of the skier's height and weight, the conditions, and what should be on the DIN settings. Now, it's actually good that you brought this up because I need to change mine this morning, and I'm a bit surprised with it. With the powdery conditions, you kind of want to have. I've had my DIN settings on higher. Now, I had them set at 7 in Niseko, and I thought coming here that would be fine. Now, I don't know whether it's just maybe because my ski legs are still trying to sort of, remember what it feels like and everything. But I've clipped out of my skis quite a lot in the 2 days that I've been up on the slopes so far. Now, luckily, I've been sort of in good powder. So when I've clipped out, I've just sort of nosedived into 20 centimeters of powder. But I have also done it on an icy, pisted, groomy run. And you just think, oh, well, it's a good job that, sort of I've fallen over plenty of times that I can sort of cushion myself. But if you're a first timer, but you mentioned the tools, it's not really one which I know that a skier sort of carries around. I mean, and you also mentioned those, like the screwdriver bases at the lift station. I mean, I always see snowboarders using them, but never actually skiers.
What is the dinner? Is it a flathead?
The DIN setting, it's like there's a little marker in the front binding, and it's just a number between 1 to 10 on there.
And you just twist it, don't you? That's
it. With the screw. Yeah.
The higher the number, the stiffer it is, the less likely your boot's going to come out. The lower the number, the easier it releases, right?
Yeah.
So something like that, but with the right attachment for like a skier, seems to be. But I guess maybe once it's set, do you maybe adjust less than snowboarders do? You kind of set it, you're there for the season, so maybe not.
Absolutely. I mean, I see the boarders tweaking their stuff all the time, but like you say, there's different conditions, and as you rightly pointed out, like you're not always going to be near a lift station. You might be in the back country somewhere, and you've got to change quickly. And usually once it's set on a ski binding, it should usually be sorted. But it definitely looks like a handy tool for yourself, and it's not going to take up too much space in your pocket or your bag, right?
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing about it is I tend to keep it in my left front pocket. So if I fall over and land on that side, potentially it's an easy bruise area. But besides from that, all good. Okay, so that's my first one, snowboard tool. What's your next one, Matt?
Okay, so my third one is the GoPro, a camera. So I have recently just bought the new GoPro Hero 10. Now this is the 10 Black, and obviously this is. I mean, I'm not sure if you've got something media related, but you and I both enjoy sort of documenting our ski experiences, and so having some form of camera while you're out on the mountain is, you just never really know what you're going to come across, whether it's an epic powder run where nobody's been down it, or the skies have opened up and there's a beautiful landscape you want to capture a photo of, or a picture, or just anything really. And over the last year or two when I've been out, I've always just had my DSLR. And I got to the point now where I'm just fed up of having this like big lumpy thing around. I'd not used a GoPro for a little while. I'd lost a few and sort of got a little bit fed up with the product. But I watched another skier called Harry Reid, and he was doing a he was doing a review of this while he was out near, I think it was Valmoral or somewhere in France, and it just looked like that everything had been stepped up a whole new notch from GoPro, and because of their competition with DJI, the prices have actually stayed pretty constant. So this, with all the accessories with it, cost just under £400, which was fairly reasonable in my eyes. I thought it would be a good investment. It's small, the GoPro. It's really easy to just sort of quickly get out and capture something quickly. You don't have to worry about setting it on a tripod and capturing everything around. And yeah, I just tried to capture as much as possible and then worry about the sort of the editing and the look of it later on.
Yeah, I think I can't believe that I didn't put a camera in my top 5 ski accessories. Like, I mean, that kind of that sucks for me and my mind and how it works. But I've been using GoPro maybe 3 years now. I got my first one just after I went to Japan, and I was in Japan using a camera from a different brand, and I got back and I looked at my stuff, and like, even when I watch that stuff now, like, it gives me good memories, but I was like, the picture's just not as good as it should be. Like, I'm not sure it quite shows exactly how good everything was. And like, you've been to Japan, and like, the conditions there, it's unworldly. So I was like, I never want to be in a situation again where what I'm recording isn't recorded as well as I could do it. And that's probably why I stepped up to a GoPro. And I think similar to you, because up until my last trip, I was using the 7. This winter, I will also be using the GoPro 10. Just the features and the stabilization, the stuff that's coming out of it. And I'm not saying that like I'm a master cinematographer in any way. Like, I'm very much learning on the go, and every camera, it takes time to get used to. But I've found it, the GoPro is easy to use for anyone. And even like, you're skiing with a friend and you say, oh, would you just ski down there and just record this? For everyone can use a GoPro, hey, and get something that at least looks good.
Yeah, definitely, thoroughly agree with you there. Out of curiosity, what other sort of camera equipment do you use when you're off capturing?
So hold on. Pretty much this Sony ZV-1 is my kind of vlogging camera, and then it's pretty much GoPro, and very occasionally, like, I just use my my iPhone. And like, surprisingly, like, iPhone, it comes out really nice. I remember there's a video on my channel which nobody's watched, but actually I quite like it. It's I was in New Zealand and went dolphin watching in Akaroa. And I forgot to charge the cameras. I was like, I'll just do my iPhone. But the picture's so sharp. So I think I won't probably take that anywhere near like going on snow, I don't think, because if you've got a GoPro, there's just no point, I don't think. But I have enjoyed using that. The other kind of side of my channel away from the skiing is kind of the walking here in the Lake District. And I do like the picture on that. And then obviously, the DJI Mavic Mini 2. I've never taken it on snow, but I'm hoping that this winter that might be a step up. And see, the thing that scares me about like drones and snow is the battery. Now, other people do it, but like, the battery's maybe 15-20 minutes anyway. If it's cold, I don't want my drone to be off in the distance, but maybe that's just user worry, and maybe I just need to man up and stick the drone out there and just hope it comes back.
No, I mean, look, I can understand exactly where you're coming from. I've flown. It's been on my list for a while to buy a drone, but I'm not at the stage yet where I think from my cinematography and vlogging, like, it can do without that for now. But I flew the Mini in my back garden. A friend, his father had one, and he just brought it over, and he was enjoying it. Anyway, let me have a go with it. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. But the first time with it, and you're trying to grasp, obviously, the concept of actually the maneuverability of it, its height and everything. First thing I did, I flew it into a tree. flew it in. I flew it into the tree. The sort of the rotors, one or two had snapped off, and I was there, and I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed, and that's probably why I haven't bought one yet. But I'm glad you mentioned the drone, because the sort of my favorite video from your channel, and I'm so jealous, like, that you've been there, is the one where you went skiing up in the Lake District
At
to
Rays, yeah.
Rays. It, I think this is where we sort of started exchanging messages, actually, because it's definitely something that I want to do. But the way you captured that, your sort of your journey up to Rays, because it's not, there's not a gondola to get up there. It's a hike, from what I gather, and you captured all of that with the footage, and the drone that you used on that gave a really cool just sort of overview of actually what the landscape was, and yeah, I thought that video was incredible, mate. I loved it.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, that video has kind of kicked off things a little bit. That's kind of got me out there maybe in the ski industry a bit more than it had before, talking at the snow show and stuff like that, and meeting some really cool people like Ian from the Ski Podcast and stuff like that. And there's a guy going out to Japan this winter, a guy called, he's on Instagram, I'll link him below, Mike the Snow. He's awesome. If you don't follow him, definitely. So that was kind of a game changer for me as well, and just being able to have that round the corner was awesome. So camera gear, whether it's drones, GoPros, whatever you've got, just how cool is it when you get back to the lodge or your hotel or whatever, and you've got a video of your mate and they've done something cool, and it's just like perfect, and that's the way forward. Okay, so my next one, and I've gone a little bit overboard on this. So it's magnetic goggles. And by that, I mean like magnetic lenses. Now, I'm a bit of a gear freak. And so that's the Anon M4s. That's the Smith IO mags. That's the Smith Squad mags. And that is the Anon Syncs, and there is another pair of goggles which I can't name at the moment, but I'm going to be doing a video soon, and if you guys are watching and you watch that video, you'll be able to win those, so make sure you sub. But since using Anon goggles originally, like I had the M3, being able to change my lens on the go, it's been an absolute game changer. And from goggles that I'd had previously, I would have the same lens the whole season, regardless of whether it was cloudy, whether it was sunny, and it was never the best for anything. But like the way that you just change them, like, I mean, you'll have seen them just off and back on, like you do it on a chairlift. And especially with like the Anon goggles, where you have like the face mask, which attaches as well. It's completely blown my mind in how I access like ski goggles when I'm out and about. Now, I've seen on your videos, you're currently wearing Solomon goggles, right?
Yeah.
How do you find your goggles?
So the one unfortunate thing is this model is probably about 2-3 years old now, and the lenses are interchangeable, but I do think that magnetic invention is a bit of a step up. The lenses that I've got with the Solomons scratch really easily. And unfortunately, with the one downside is, like, I think for buying Solomon lenses on their own, I think you can only go through them, and they're not all available directly on the website. But yeah, that's the second. I think I've got 3 or 4 items from Solomon. I love them as a brand. I've followed Solomon. They've been a big part of sort of also my sort of ski filming, really. I mean, Solomon Free Ski TV was something I always used to enjoy watching, and I just, for a long time, I've loved their gear. But yeah, I'm probably looking at buying some new goggles at some point, purely because the lenses are so scratched. And you do need, if you have more lenses, each one for different conditions, they make such a difference. If it's a sunny day, if it's a snowy, like grey overcast day, having that difference is going to really help improve your visibility. It's going to help your ability to obviously assess the terrain. Because that sometimes even with goggles, you're just going down blindly and just hoping that, you know, you don't hit like a mogul or a divot or something.
Well, I think that's the thing for me. Like even if I had more than one lens for a pair of goggles, it was so fiddly to interchange them. I just never did it, and it did affect maybe you know, my enjoyment out on the snow. And I think take these the Squad mags. I picked them up on sale a couple weeks ago for 60 quid, 2 chroma pop lenses, both magnetic, like they work great. So it doesn't even have to be expensive anymore. Because I think there was 2 things with magnetic goggles and pretty much goggles in general: how expensive they are. It put a lot of people off buying new ones, and also the lens is going to fall out if I crash. Honestly, with all of these goggles that I've just shown you there, if the lens comes out, you've got bigger problems. Like, that's some hell of a crash that you've taken. And I can't, you know, recommend magnetic lenses enough, I think.
No, you're right though. Like, I mean, gosh, growing up, you know, if you wanted a really good set of goggles, and I guess the same thing applied with sunglasses as well. Like, the brand, it would be really expensive. It would typically always be from Oakley's, but in the last like 5-6 years, the goggle and you know, everything is like, it's taken off, and there's all these amazing like new companies that have come up with things like the interchangeable lenses with the magnetics, the different colors and the straps, and it's definitely a lot more affordable now and accessible.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so that is my geeking out on goggles over and done with. What's your next one, mate?
Okay, water.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Go on.
It sounds so simple, but you know, when you're up in the mountains, you're at altitude. You know, you use up a lot of energy when you're skiing. I know that when you're especially when you're on a family trip, you know, you're out there, you're wanting to have a good time. You're probably going to stop off at a few places on the hill and down in the town for a beer and food and everything like that. But I've seen injuries and stuff with concussions, and part of the link to that is a bit of dehydration involved as well. Because I work obviously now in the mountains as well, I'm not always going out and drinking on the slopes. I know I'm out there just to actually have a good day. I won't even stop sometimes for lunch. I'll have a bit of a packed food with me in my bag. So taking a big bottle of water is a big help. And, you know, it's such an easy thing to forget to do, but, you know, it's healthy. It's important to do.
It definitely it beats paying €8 for a bottle of water in one of the mountain bars. And to be honest, like, when you're out skiing, sometimes you forget about water because it's cold. And, you know, if you're on a nice beach holiday somewhere, you're constantly drinking because you want to refresh yourself. Whereas maybe you don't realize you need it as much, but you definitely do.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather drink a free bottle of water than have to fork out like an €11 plastic bottle of beer from the Folie Douce.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Right, my next one, geeking out again, and it is merino socks. I don't think that there is anything better than putting on a good pair of socks in the morning. Like, and that might sound incredibly lame, but since switching socks to like a full merino, like, it's natural, regulates body temperature, so you just like sweat less. And at the end of the day, yeah, of course, your feet still like stink. You're their feet. You've been doing activity, but if you're going for a week, it's going to sound really grim. You can get away with one pair of merino socks. Like, dry it overnight, it's going to be fine. Like cotton socks or whatever the alternatives are. man, they hum. After a day, they absolutely hum, and it's just not pleasant. I mean, what
Yeah.
do you think?
Yeah, I've not used merino. Again, I've got a couple from Solomon, which are nice and comfy. I don't have any issues really with sweat. The issues I have with my feet are always, and it's mostly at the start of the season, but those first few days, my feet do get very cramped within the boots, even though I've got like custom soles. But yeah, I remember like as a kid, some of the socks you'd get, like, you're just sort of wearing all sorts really. They were big, thick cotton ones. They were really uncomfortable. You'd get like rashes. The boot would dig into it. It just wouldn't be fun. But I think that's amazing in itself that there's all this technology that goes into a sock.
It's mad now, and
Yeah,
maybe the price that you'll pay for a good pair of merino socks isn't worth it to the average punter. But I think if you're going often enough, it definitely is. And I will say that these in particular, like I bought off Sport Pursuit. I don't know if you've ever used that website. I think everything's pretty much half price, mate. So when you're back in the UK and you need ski gear, just pop yourself on there, and there is loads of good gear available. We are slowly running out of time, I think. So let's go through your next one. What is your last one on your list, I think?
Okay, so this is my last one is glove inners, which
Wuss.
well, yeah. I mean, okay. We were talking about this just before we were about to sort of record. You could apply, I think, not just to gloves, but I think any form of like spare layer or something, and putting that in your bag is really important. True. Here in Revi, there are some weeks apparently where it can get down to -20, -25 on the hill. It gets down quite cold. So. And like a similar thing with the feet, I will have, like everybody does really, I'll go through periods where my fingertips have gone really cold. You might be stuck on a lift, or you're just sort of you've gone through a couple of runs where you're really cold, and it doesn't take much space. But if you have that thin layer in, you can quickly whip them out to warm yourself up. Stops you obviously saves you a bit of time. You don't have to then go in and get warmed up anywhere. But same thing really if you carry an extra like thin sweater or a t-shirt in your bag, and then that way you can change according to the conditions really to make sure you're the right temperature.
I think that's the thing for me that I think would make me agree with you, is anything that stops you going inside unnecessarily. Like if you are prone to having cold hands and you want inners or you want hand warmers and you've got them in your pocket, then it's only going to improve your enjoyment out there, isn't it? So I'm going to give you that one, although I'm not someone who normally will ski or ride with their gloves on the whole time, but we'll see. Okay. And my last one then is a spare buff. So I don't know, like from Japan, where were you in Japan?
Niseko.
Okay, so you will know, you do a run, your buff is completely covered in incredible Japanese powder, and then it's soaked the rest of the day, and it's just not comfortable. So I do tend to try and change my buff at the middle of the day, just keep it fresh. And I think similar to what you're saying in terms of like inners or having that spare layer, it just gives me that little bit more comfort throughout the day. Now, I guess where it comes into it a little bit more is partnering buffs with goggles and all that sort of stuff, and having the magnetic goggles. And maybe that's why the two of those are in my thing, because now you have the buff which connects to the goggle, and then you've got that complete barrier to the world, and you just feel cozy inside. But do you ever carry spare buff, or do you just let the face and the beard do the protection?
Yeah, the beard at the moment is a little bit short. I have just had a shave, but I do carry them. I would probably, I have to sort of have one down on my neck all the time at the moment, because the COVID restrictions with Revelstoke is that you've got to wear a mask when you're queuing and getting on, and when you're in the base gondola, only the base gondola, so not the chairlifts or anything else on the mountain. But a buff is okay, it's acceptable here, whereas like I know in Austria it was all about the FFP2 mask. So yeah, you just have that one there. But I do carry a spare one. I like collecting them. I've got a few. I've got one from, I think I've got one from Niseko. I've got one from Ishgul. And you mentioned the snow show. That's probably where I've picked up most of mine there. Like, it's a great little thing to sort of do. I'm actually been working a little bit on maybe getting some own branded buffs done. But with all the logistics chaos from Christmas, I think it's taking a bit longer. But they are great, and yeah, sometimes I do like to have just let the snow beard go if I'm feeling that. But yeah, another great little thing that easy to it can fit in your pocket or in your bag, and yeah.
But interesting that, like, you mentioned it in terms of COVID restrictions now. Like, when I booked the Grand Massive Pass as like my backup, they're actually selling their own masks now, which are like have the filters in them.
Yeah.
And so, and you have to wear it can't just be a buff in the lift queue there. It has to be a proper face mask while you're in the lift queue. And I don't know how much of that is safety and how much of that is money making, but yeah, that, I mean, I'm going to try and just say they're trying to protect everyone rather than make money, but who knows?
It's probably an overlay of the two, but there's probably some marketing and branding exercises going on there. It's the same here. You can buy Revelstoke branded masks. Like, it's crazy how much of a norm that has now become as part of our lives. But yeah.
Well, mate, I think that's our 5 items each from like a snowboard and then from a ski perspective. So I really appreciate your input, and I hope that people found that useful. If they did find it useful, and if you're watching at home and you want to see more videos like this, just drop it down below. Let me know the kind of content that you want. Matt, I'd love to have you back on at some point through the season and just find out how your season's going, how the conditions are in Revelstoke. Is that something you'd be keen for?
Absolutely, mate. It's actually... yeah, the snow that was due, it's just starting to fall outside, but I'd love to come back on, mate. I've really enjoyed this. And yeah, mate, actually, I'd love to have you on my channel as well at some point, mate, because, I mean, I know we're in different countries, but, both enjoying the same things, mate. And this has been really fun. So thank you for having me on.
I appreciate you coming on, man. It's really nice that there is another person, and I know that loads of people from the UK are like interested in skiing. I don't want to say we're the only two, but it's really nice that like you're there from the UK, out sharing it with the world, all these cool places. So I look forward to talking again, and we'll leave it for there. But thank you very much, mate.
Thank you, mate.